Yesterday, we were talking about how we just crossed over some bad macro signals, and we can take a breather because we said in order to get rid of those signals, we're going to have to see something over the next 24 to 72 hours. Pretty much in the next 3 days, we're going to have to see something. We see something today. Now, as we go through these, I just wanted to show you how we've gotten rid of those signals. We curled down on the 2 hour and we were able to curl back up, right? And then you'll notice on the daily scale for the SPY, we were able to hold up a little bit better. And when we flip over to the Qs, that was able to curl back up. That is a overall good thing. As we go back into the 2 hour, we could look for other signals that we were paying attention to, and that was Apple. Apple was a main signal we were saying, and we have to pay attention if Apple is seeing this weakness. We get the gap up, we're running into 225.84, and we have to see if that's able to cross through that level. But for now, you do get these green impressions on the histogram saying, hey, we have done some damage control. We have done what we needed to do over the next couple of days in order to at least have a chance to head higher. And we're going to talk about the signal that you need to see in order for us to hit those all-time highs. I think we have the potential for the SPY to hit new all-time highs. Qs might be a little bit more rough, but we'll talk about that when we get there. One thing to note about those crash signals, I just wanted to mention that XLU did not see that turn up yet. We still have a possibility to do that, but watch out if that gives you some kind of lower high. We're going to talk about some crash signals later on, especially when we get to the dollar still consolidating. If we are going to see major buying, you would like this to be dropping off pretty quickly, saying, hey, people are going out of cash into assets. So this is still holding strong and consolidating. We have to see if that's going to turn up at any time. We will be paying attention to the rig behavior come the stream tomorrow. And then as we move forward, we can go look at volatility. And this is what we posted to Patreon. This is going to be a major signal to pay attention to. We have a 2 hour divergence that says, hey, when this crosses over, we could see weakness on a daily scale, meaning we could actually see volatility drop down to something like 1683 or a test of that 200. So we have to be paying attention. It looks like the market was able to buy some more time, like we were talking about yesterday. If we could see that positivity today, we saw it, we bought some time, but now we have to watch out because some of these signals are still there as far as the dollar, XLU, and the volatility goes, remaining high at elevated levels. So we have to pay attention because this could be some kind of trap. Now that was an overall lengthy opener, but now we can get into some price action for tomorrow. And I think I don't use 4 hour charts often, but I do see us heading up towards the area where we just made this little line live the other day, and we need to cross through that level, and that would be able to produce some upside for the 4 hour chart here, able to curl up into positive territory. So we need those daily expected moves for tomorrow. We do have 576.84 to the upside. We do have 569.50 to the downside. That is what the options market is pricing in. Remember, what was the options market pricing in for today? Pretty much right at this level. So we closed just barely above it, but we did react to that level. So very good to have these on your charts. If you need to learn how to use these, courses are down there in the description. But for the most part, if you get those weeklies on your charts here, we are in a time where we haven't tested these moves in a few weeks, and you do gravitate towards them a lot. I think the data shows, I tried to look back before I made this video, but I believe the data shows that I think it's this year, since 2024 started, we have hit those weekly moves somewhere around 35, I think 35 to 40 times, while we have not hit them during the week about 5 to 10 times or something like that. So most of the time you are going to gravitate towards those moves, and you will see that we haven't done that in the past few weeks. So we need to see a move to maybe go hit this. That would really give us a hint if the 4 hour is able to curl up here. But as we look into a 30-minute chart for the SPY, I just wanted you to be aware that there is some potential here for weakness and momentum. I still see these daily moves shifting in the upward direction, which tells me, hey, this is relatively a positive trend. So something that would be very good for tomorrow, as we do get FOMC minutes, is for the market to pull down, maybe even get people pretty fearful and turn down into this area, down to the bottom expected move, and then curl up into positive territory. So one signal I'd be paying attention to is the 4 hour curling up. If that happens early on in the day, hey, maybe we're able to squeeze because volatility is giving that 2 hour divergence. But if we're going to fall down from here, this 30-minute is positive enough that if we curl down to that daily expected move and go like this, well, this might be some kind of structure to break out and head to the upside. And I believe if that does happen, and when that does happen, you can see that 4 hour turn up, and maybe something like the FOMC minutes is going to cause that in the later part of the day. Would be very, very good from the Qs to create some structure here. So we're going to give you those daily expected moves and then talk about it. We do have 493.52 to the upside, and we have 485.08 to the downside. Remember, that is your 68% zone for tomorrow. We reacted up towards it and we went a little bit higher. I believe that move, we closed above it just a little bit today. So good to see that. But the gap up here really saved us, because this could be an ugly, ugly look. If you really start to go negative instead of gapping up, that would be a bad sign if you took out these lows. We talked about that over the weekend. We weren't able to do it. We're setting up a higher low. And now I believe structure here would be nice, because you're in an area towards this high where you're really getting up to that point. See if you can get some consolidation to break through cleanly. If you're able to consolidate, that means maybe a stronger move will be coming. So we want to pay attention to, again, here for the Qs, a 4-hour chart. I know we don't look at it a lot, but 4-hour chart can go a long way here. And the thing about the 4-hour is, if that does cross up right away in the day, be weary if we make some kind of rapid move before FOMC minutes, okay? But for the most part, we want to say if we do consolidate and head higher, that does look pretty healthy. Now, this thick red line is your yearly, your annual expected move. So your 68% zone is below here. This is as high up as the options market priced us to go for 2024. That is 492.28 if you want to get it on your charts. You'll notice that bad things happen up here. Bad things happen up here. So we have to be aware that as we are rising, and if the dollar remains at elevated levels, this all could be some kind of trap, and maybe we even get some kind of 4-hour divergence that really shows us that in the price action. So that's what we're going to be paying attention to. As far as the Qs go, we're going to be paying attention to this stuff live. Please make sure you like and subscribe so that you can come and join us during those live videos. We can talk about if we're seeing some rig behavior, like we're about to get a rug pull. Now, Apple, during the live video, we just wanted to show how we might be in some kind of triangle here. We're seeing these bigger swings turn into medium, turn into small, so we could see a big move in the next few weeks, and that's something we want to pay attention to. And as of right now, Apple was looking like, hey, I'm going to break to the downside, right? It really said I'm crossing down on a daily scale, and that's a bad, bad thing, because we have a bunch of flat tops up here that could be a triple divergence, so we're paying attention to it. But the 2-hour was able to buy that back. That's what we said yesterday. If you don't want something bad to happen as of today, well, then tomorrow, this is what we said yesterday, tomorrow, then you're going to want to see things turning up. We have to save ourselves within the next 72 hours. That ended up happening. So we turn up right away. Volatility was up by more than 10%. So we knew there was an 85% chance for an update in the SPY over the next 2 trading sessions. We get that update, but we do get some data and stuff like that. So we want to pay attention, because the level Apple is at on this MACD is low for the MACD down here. So if that does cross up and we don't form good structure on the way up, right? If we do not form good structure on the way up on that 30-minute chart, then this could just pop up for a moment and roll right back down. Now, I do believe this does have a little bit more time, and maybe we get a false breakout, so we'll pay attention to that. I think that if we see this bull run, if volatility has something to say, and maybe we get that announcement of a 25 basis point cut, people really love when they just hear the word cut these days, so that could be happening. But oil's kind of like booming right now, so that might be one of the biggest mistakes the Fed has ever made, is cutting rates right now, because we could see inflation come back in. That's a topic maybe for a Saturday. But this 2-hour has curled up. It's just deeper in negative territory, so you have to be aware of any kind of curling down from that MACD at any time. So I'd be paying close attention to my 30-minute. I'd be looking, do we see a big move, and then do we see some form of weakness in here? Because that will tell us a lot. That is why we use those weekly expected moves on Patreon. Please, if you're a trader out there and you've been doing it for a while and you need a tool that can really help you, those weekly ranges can really help. We give it for all the stocks we cover on here, and a few more stocks out there over on Patreon down in the description. Tesla was one that we wanted to hold up. We said we do not want to take out this low. The only thing that you could see as bullish if we take out this low is if you go make a divergence here between this low. So that's something we're paying attention to. But as of right now, we're holding the structure. We're holding it up. We're holding that head and shoulders. So, but we haven't really seen that breakout moment yet. So as this is still negative on the 30-minute, you have to be aware if that is curling down. But remember, that area is important. You could see some form of divergence between these two lows. So So that's what I'd be paying attention to for tomorrow. If we do see the market pull down to consolidate, in my opinion, then that would be something to watch before the FOMC minutes. The key thing here for Tesla is the 2-hour going to turn up, and that's going to be a big deal. But I want you to notice it's in a similar boat to Apple, which is it is deeper in negative territory on this 2-hour. So even if you do pop up, you could just end up filling a gap and getting some kind of lower high. That is the most probable thing for Tesla with this kind of look, is a lower high in this area. I'm perfectly comfortable with this making a new high. If it wants to build that good structure, I will be perfectly happy with that, and I will gladly take some calls to the upside. But for the most part, until all of that forms, I have to be weary if this kind of dies down at any time and just curls back down into negative territory, because that would mean we're actually going to continue into a negative trend. Amazon was one that we posted to the Patreon, just showing how it had some great divergences down here, and why I said that this was my favorite one to look at right now is because it actually went down to a weekly expected move. That's why I use those levels. I really like when there is structure or reversal signals at weekly expected moves. That is a fantastic look for us. So at this moment, we can actually notice that it actually formed a 2-hour divergence, and that's fantastic. Did this have a chance to curl up, and how is this going to play out? Well, if you want to play out with good structure, that would mean you get to this level, maybe you back off for a second, and then you're able to cross through, you retest, you get that nice flowy price action. Then you can get to these levels, create another handle to remain healthy. So the big thing here is, are stocks at these elevated levels going to remain healthy? That's kind of what we're going to go through during our live videos. Are these moves remaining healthy? Are we seeing rigged behavior? But that has crossed up. That is known to curl up daily charts, and that thing is it's been pulling back for a little bit of time. So if the daily curls up, you actually would say then that has a chance to test the high, go make a new one. So for Amazon, since it does have a 2-hour divergence, you want to be paying attention if this gets a green bar on the histogram for the MACD, because that could mean, hey, we're actually getting pretty bullish. When that is going to take place is most likely when you're testing these levels. And if you're testing those levels at a breakout time, hey, we might see a big move from Amazon going forward. As you look into the 30-minute, I just wanted to show real quick something to be aware of for tomorrow to the downside. One, these are the reversal signals we were paying attention to. We see that good divergence, and we actually made a very significant one here on the RSI for these two lows. So that is a good signal to pay attention to, and it was by a weekly expected move. That is all fantastic stuff. And it even curled up the 2-hour. These are the signals we look for to curl up that 2-hour. And we'll notice the only thing we really have to pay attention to, as we're kind of cup and handling here, you can see that little micro structure. It looks pretty good. If Amazon's going to have weakness, though, it's going to curl down on this MACD. You're in negative territory, so likely to go test the low and go make a new one, but that would be outside of a weekly range at that point, and this might be the real signal. This is where management of the trade really helps you out. You make sure, hey, this looks like the good move. Oh, it fails for a second, creates a new signal. You got to know how to get out of a trade and then get right back in if you see a good signal. That's what we teach in the course down in the description. Currently on a 90% sale. A little bit worried about Nvidia because let me not say now. Nvidia, I'm a little bit worried about Nvidia just because we do have these 30-minute signals up here, just saying a little bit of weakness could come in. And this is why I believe a pullback tomorrow would be nice. We're seeing a lot of semiconductors see some great stuff. SMCI suffering a little bit today, but Nvidia just booming higher as of right now, creating a little reversal signal. The thing about this reversal signal is it is way up here in positive territory. So a little pullback can go a long way for Nvidia here. A little pullback like this can make you go a lot higher, and that's why we want to see good structure on the way up, because Nvidia is outside of a weekly expected move, and you are seeing something crazy. So if we're going to end up back in that zone, then we can see some bigger time frames start to curl down. Looking at a 2-hour, it looks like we might need a 2-hour pullback. So we do have that opportunity to see some kind of 2-hour pullback. So if that 30-minute goes too deep, we cross over this 2-hour, well, then we might end up retesting something like 125, or at least filling this gap, right? Somewhere in this area right here would be good, or a test of that 125, that breakout of these wicks of that high up there would be nice. So that's what I'm really paying attention to, but that could just be a simple swing trade to the upside. We are not necessarily talking about bearish things. We're just saying we need to see some good structure to head up a little bit higher, and then after that we'll pay attention to if we're seeing some of that rigged behavior from some of these stocks, from the dollar, from volatility, from the PCC. AMD is telling you why you really don't want Nvidia to curl over on a 2 hour, in my opinion, because it is showing some divergence here for the 2 hour. And if the 2 hour is going to cross for Nvidia, pretty confident that the 2 hour is going to cross down for AMD. The problem with this kind of signal is it's known to rotate down daily charts. Okay, daily charts are known to rotate down with that. That would mean that we're going to give up this little trend we're in and maybe end up heading to the downside a little bit. So we'll pay attention to that. Now, this is extremely positive at this moment, so that could just be a daily pullback, and that's what we'll pay attention to. Maybe we just react down to this area back into our zone that I need to pull over, but maybe we'll react down into that area so that we can see a curl up, and then we have to worry about earnings. Earnings is always a 50-50 flip, but as of right now, I just wanted you to be aware of this 2 hour signal. If it crosses down, it means bad things, but if it can cross right back up, it means good things, right? You're still in positive territory. So if this crosses down for a moment and then curls back up into positive territory, that would be another move, most likely higher. If we're able to cross back through that 172 level, that would be a good sign for something like AMD. Meta actually confirming divergence, still pretty high up on the MACD, but Meta was able to confirm that divergence, and now it's trying to turn up one more time. So that would be where we need to look at the 30 minutes, see if that's curled up, and at the end of the day, you did curl up. So the most likely thing for something like Meta going forward is actually positivity. Now, the thing about positivity right out the gate is kind of what we were saying about the SPY and the Qs. If you get that positivity out the gate, and it's really, really positive, you have to be a little bit worrisome, because if you form a reversal signal in the morning and then you get something that people react badly to, as in the FOMC minutes, then that can be a problem for something like this. So you really, if this is going to see bullishness, you don't want it to get too excited. You really want it to make structure to head higher. Some kind of small cup and handle can go a long way for Meta, because as it is curling up and it didn't have divergences, so we were leaning towards a 30-minute pullback, even with that 2 hour signal. I would really like to see that push higher and then do something like this, because that would tell me there's weakness in that 2 hour, there's weakness on a 30-minute, so we can really start to see that bad momentum turn into more of a sell-off for something like Meta. So looking at the 2 hour, if we do see a sell-off in some way, just note this is bullish, and it's been bullish for quite some time, right? So even if that does curl down, you have a long way to that center line. So if that curls up into positive territory, maybe you're going to make a more significant divergence, right? Maybe we're going to curl down and then curl back up to really create a more significant divergence. Those are the things I'd be paying attention to for Meta. Volatility was showing this 2 hour signal. This is what I posted to Patreon towards the end of the day, I believe. And I'm just noticing that that's curling over, saying, hey, this is some weakness in momentum. So volatility can subside here. It is still relatively positive, right? That's pretty positive. So I have to be aware of any time that curls up, especially as we are above 20. So we want to pay attention anytime that this MACD can roll up into positive territory. The reason we're paying attention to any time a shorter time frame curls up into positive territory is because the daily is still positive here. Now, that is a signal that you see when dailies can have a higher probability to roll down. So if that's going to roll down and we see some positivity for a while, we could end up back down to the 200. We could end up back down towards our 1683 level. So I wanted to pay attention to that, but that's what that signal does a lot of the time. So be ready in case that actually does happen. If that daily does cross down, you may squeeze for a little bit more time down to that 200 for volatility. As we go into just a 30-minute, just to talk about what could happen early on in the day and why, again, with AMD and things like that, why I think that we could see some kind of pullback, some kind of downward move towards a SPY daily or a Q's daily expected move for some consolidation, which I believe is still a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing as long as it's not too dramatic. We can see volatility turn up on a 30-minute and give us a good divergence that really tells us, hey, the 30-minute is showing weakness again, and this actually is going to fall back down. So that's something we will pay attention to tomorrow. One reason that this could be a trap is because so many people have been flying into cash. Okay, we've been really flying into cash for some reason, and we've started to consolidate. So this can take place for a long time. You really want to see, we could be in some period of time where you're in a daily trap, right? We use this for 2 hour traps. The main thing is paying attention to the weakness and momentum signals, because that will help us out a lot. So that's what we're going to do. But the dollar is still at elevated levels, even as we see a positive move today. You're just consolidating for it. And one thing I would be weary of is the 2 hour crossing up into positive territory here for the dollar. And the main thing to watch, though, is whether or not the dollar is moving up while the market's moving up at the same time. I think that's going to be a key thing. Now, something we could see tomorrow If we actually see the market drop tomorrow and the dollar does pop off and we see a little 2-hour divergence and the market actually ends up spinning that back around at that daily expected move, this can be a signal to watch out for. That could mean weakness in the dollar is coming, which could mean people are getting out of cash going back into assets. So those are some things you can pay attention to. But anytime the dollar is extremely elevated while the market is testing all-time highs or about to break out to an all-time high, you really want to pay attention, because that is some rigged behavior. That means people behind the curtain are actually selling, and you want to pay attention if that hits the tape, because it invites some kind of rug pull. Just like yesterday, I'm glad that this happened. I'm not unhappy this happened, because, you know, when the market does suffer, people do struggle a lot, right? People's portfolios are at risk, 401ks are at risk, a lot of things are at risk when the market does struggle. So we need to pay attention to that. And as the market does fall, actually in crash times, unemployment does tick up. So you need to pay attention, because, and really have a heart on you, because if things do crash, it can make individual people, average people, suffer. And that's not something I want to see, but it's unfortunate that we are in some kind of debt system that invites this bubble-like behavior. So at this moment, though, everything looks positive. This is pretty much the main takeaway here. I got to be paying attention to if we're going to cross up early on in the day, or if we're going to consolidate down to that daily expected move. I'm really leaning towards that consolidation, towards that daily expected move, and then we'll have to head up. And then from that level, I want to pay attention to if there is any rigged behavior telling me that people are behind the curtain selling their assets. That's going to be something very, very good to pay attention to going forward. But this is good structure to actually head higher. I'm just a little bit worried about a bull trap. Thank you so much for joining today. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for liking, subscribing. I really hope that this information was helpful to you. And let me know tomorrow live. You can come join us live. We can look at some stocks together, look at some of this behavior, and see if we can figure out which way this market really wants to go. As of right now, it looks a little bit bullish, but we know things change pretty fast these days. So let's remember to always trade like water and make sure you're managing your risk. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.